Hello everyone, how are you? Yeah, it's another good Friday that we are live from Kisii County, Kenya. My name is Rose Festus and I'm here with my colleague. He's going to introduce himself. Welcome.
Thank you so much. This is Aloli Spam. Today we are coming live from Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. We are a little bit late, but we take responsibilities of the same. And basically today we had prepared just to go through what we've been talking about, even in preparation to a new chapter that we are going to start next week. We'll be talking about adherence. And we know it's a very big world. That is where the problem lies. That is where the challenges are. And that is where we are now going to get our visitors to come on board. We may have a guest speaker come next week just to take us through the adherence bit of it. Today, the grade Ross, we are just going to look at what we've been talking about and try and answer questions that we never answered, just to set the pace and to take feedback from our viewers.
Yes.
Then we just call it a day.
Yes, Spam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Spam.
Yes.
Just want to invite all our viewers and just to tell them that they are free and please just show us that you are together with us.
Yes.
Yeah, today there are a lot of challenges. You might be wondering about the lighting and everything, but so long as you can understand or you can hear what we are saying, we are good to go, right? So feel most welcome. And just as my colleague has said, that we are just going to look at the overview of what we've been doing. Remember when we started, we've been covering different topics here, STEM, and one of them was HIV and AIDS. And then the next day, our second day, we talked about diagnosis. And then we looked at
prevention,
disclosure, prevention.
Yes.
So today we are just going to summarize kind of what we've been doing, just picking some key points of what we've discussed. And just as Spam said, just to answer your questions, maybe you ask something and you didn't see us responding. So today we are here for you. And quickly, Spam, we are just going to see, like the first time when we talked about HIV and AIDS. So
when we talked about HIV and AIDS, I think what caught our attention so much, or what was shouting so much, was the need to understand that HIV is a virus that affects only human. And there was need to understand what it does to the human blood or to the human body. Then there was need also to understand that there's what we call AIDS in the process of discussing HIV. Then there was need also to discuss how it's being transmitted and spread. And again, we talked about prevention. Just before, we talked about a disclosure of HIV status and diagnosis. So generally, when we talk about HIV and AIDS, and picking HIV as a component or as a term that we may want to define, in most cases or in all books, or the right definition for it is human immunodeficiency virus. But it is important for one to understand why it's given that name, or why it's given that meaning, or why those are the abbreviation of the same virus. So when we talk about human immunodeficiency, this it simply means that, or somebody would talk of a state of absence of an immunity, or a compromised immunity, or a state where your immunity is not in a position or has been rendered useless or powerless, that it cannot protect you against other infection. And through that, through the progression of HIV infection, which we say disease progression, that is when now AIDS will set in. So what is AIDS? I think I'm answering that question. Is the last stage where people will in most cases, people will say that this is where now you risk death. There's a lot of opportunistic infections setting in, your body is completely, the immunity is completely absent.
Yeah.
And at this point, we can see the diseases that we said that are AIDS or HIV defining diseases.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about Kaposi sarcoma, and somebody said Kaposi what, and requested for and requested for the
Further
right
explanation.
spelling. So
Yeah.
basically, when somebody talks about HIV, that is one thing that you must get clearly. It is
Yeah.
a virus that only affects human, destroys human immunity, making it useless or making it absent,
Yeah.
or making it compromised to an
Yes.
extent that it cannot protect you from other infection. And once all this has happened, then you're risking a disease.
Yeah.
Then somebody would want to ask, how does one get infected? And even before we talked of how does one get infected, somebody is already thinking of CD4, because we talked about CD4 last time.
Yeah.
Somebody is thinking about CD4. And we said when HIV sets into your body and destroys the immunity, the immunity in this case is what we are calling the CD4 in plain language. So
Yeah.
it destroys the CD4 receptor cells that form part of your immunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Spam. And just to come back on the CD4 count, we found on that particular day that HIV is a virus that damages that CD4, and
Yes.
CD4 is a T cell. It's a cell that really protect our body
It
from
form parts of the immunity system.
exactly.
Yes.
So when HIV attacks, it becomes very weak. And we found on that particular day that CD4, a normal CD4 is from 500 to 1,500. That is when it is normal.
It's just a
But
range.
it is a range, yeah. But now when HIV comes and attacks it becomes weak, and therefore the cells cannot support now the body. So you will find that when HIV comes and attacks, the CD4 can go as
Low
down
as
as
200.
200.
Or even as one.
As one.
And actually, the
Yeah.
reason why we are talking about CD4 so much, I think the point that also our listeners should be in a position to take is that the HIV targets the CD4 receptor
Exactly.
cells.
Yeah.
So those are the targets. So when it attacks the CD4, then it destroys your immune. I think. Thank you so much, Rose, for
Yeah. And the
bringing
reason
that.
as to why we are dwelling so much on the CD4 spam, you see now when somebody, we are going to talk about diagnosis,
Yes.
but now when somebody has come for the test and you've been found that you are HIV positive,
Yes.
what we consider first is we look at that CD4.
It's important to look
Yeah.
at CD4. The reason why we are looking at CD4, thank you so much, Ross, for bringing that again. The reason why somebody would want to look for CD4 is, number one, our listeners might not be in a position to listen. Really, not all of them will be in a position to get the explanation.
Yeah.
But your body can be in a state that it cannot accommodate ARVs or treatment of HIV. And the reason why we are looking at that CD4 is when somebody is doing your CD4, there's what we call a serum crack that they were going to test also. When your CD4 is below 200, in some cases I hear people argue about 100, but below 200 you should do a serum crack. The reason why we are doing a serum crack, you are looking for a condition called cryptococcal meningitis.
Exactly.
So before you start your treatment, it is important to consider the state of your CD4.
Yes.
So it is an important component of immunity that somebody must be looking at. And somebody will be asking, just to take a notch higher, so what happens when I'm just started on medication and people and somebody don't check on my CD4? If they are low and you've been risking an infection or a condition that we said it's a cryptococcal meningitis, then ARVs might not be in a position to support you or even to help you. Instead, you'll be calling for your death. So what are we saying? That diagnosis should be done at the facility level, and the treatment also should be done at facility level. I think that is a point that never came out last time.
Yeah.
So it is important that when you're starting your treatment, please start your treatment at the facility level, and don't go and buy drugs.
Exactly.
I know people buy drugs, but Yes, you can test yourself, you can have the self-test, but don't go for drugs alone. It is important we look for the baseline investigations. It is important we rule out TB. It is important that we rule out the cryptococcal meningitis before you start your treatment. So you'll be asking yourself a lot of questions, but those are the answers. It is important to check the state of your immunity before we start treatment. Thank you so much, Rose, for
thank you
bringing that. Yes.
Thank you. So CD4 here, it's very important.
Very, very
and
key.
actually, even after finding your CD4 count, maybe it is below 200. We normally, after taking medication, we check also on that CD4 and see now it is how much.
Which takes us to the question, when should we do a CD4?
Yeah.
Number one, because of the financial issues and all that, we take our CD4 at enrollment. Before you start your medication, it is important. I know there are cases whereby somebody can be started on medication without a CD4 count, but it is important that that is a requirement. And there's need with facilities that you may need to be doing your CD4 annually. And again, there's a group of people that may need to be looking at their CD4 until they suppress. When you start your medication, and I didn't want to talk about medication today, I don't want to talk about viral load today, but we'll be talking about viral load when we'll be talking about ART treatment and adherence. So when you have high viral load, in that you're not virally suppressed, there's need to do your CD4. Reason is, it is automatic that your immunity has gone low, because there's a graph that we can grow for you on air. I don't know whether to draw that graph. When your CD4 is going up, your viral load will be going down. But when your viral load goes up, your CD4 will go down. Basically, you can explain it this way, that when your viral load is high, then the destruction of your immunity is also higher. The rate at which your immunity is being destroyed is also higher, and you're risking other infections.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And next time we'll be in a position when we'll be talking about treatment, we'll be talking about intervals of taking your CD4s and intervals of taking your viral load. So just keep tuned, stay tuned for that. I think it's also a noble discussion that we'll be having next time. Just looking at the laboratory investigations during treatment.
Exactly.
And there's one thing also that you must be looking at before we, even before we look at diagnosis, but I know we are touching on diagnosis again, but it is also important to rule out TB, rather tuberculosis. So what am I saying, or what are we saying as a team, as a Heroes Voice Corner? That it is important to know your status, yes, but it is important also to start treatment the right way. So where do you get the treatment the right way? At the facility level, and don't buy drugs. Don't treat yourself, just come, you will get the right information. There's what we call treatment preparation. Is a service that you also really need to get. You also need to understand the viral load in details. You also need to understand the CD4, mode of transmission, prevention, everything. You need to understand all this in details before you start your medication. Thank you so much, Rose.
Thank you so much, Spam. I think we've really tackled that one, and I believe our viewers, you are together and you are getting it. Unless there is something that is passing you today, maybe you can just let us know. So can we talk about HIV transmission and the spread a little bit? Before we go to
diagnosis. Thank you for that. We are going to look at a spread. And you said spread and transmission. Even as we are headed to spread and transmission, get to know that that AIDS is the advanced stage of HIV. I was thinking of that point and it was disappearing, but thank God it has come back. So how do we get the infection, or how do we spread the infection? There's a lot of things that the public knows. There's a lot of information that our viewers, I know you have, but to give strength to a few, we are not saying that the information that you have is wrong. We are not saying that the information that is in the books are wrong, but what we are saying is there's a lot that we can talk about, but just allow us to talk about number one, mother to child transmission. So how can somebody get infected? We are beginning from that point, or we're starting from that point, is that a mother can infect a child. When and where? You can infect your child while pregnant. You can infect your child during delivery, and you can also infect your child during breast feeding, which takes us to the level or
Yeah.
to another question of, is it possible for a woman to get pregnant when she's HIV positive? Yes.
Yeah.
Then the other bit of the question, or the other bit of the question that is now rising, but you are saying that we can infect our child.
Yeah.
We are going to answer that during prevention, because
Exactly.
there's what we call prevention of mother to child transmission.
Exactly.
As there is transmission of mother to child transmission. The other point that came out clearly is unprotected sexual intercourse with an infected person.
Yeah.
And we also extended that question and said, with an infected person, number one, who is not on medication, or number two, is on medication but is not virally suppressed.
Yeah.
Or the current viral load is not known, or is not adhering well to medication.
Yes, Ben.
Which will answer the question whether how do somebody get pregnant then if you're positive? It's through the normal sex.
Yeah.
But there are things that must be considered. We must consider your adherence, you must consider your viral suppression, and you must consider the status of your partner also, and the current status, the current viral load status of your partner, just in case you are in a concordant positive relationship. The other bit of transmission and spread that you talked about is through blood, and this one now covers a lot. There's accidents, there's coming in contact with infected blood, there is body fluids during sex and all that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you can talk about blood and body fluids. So we gave those three a little bit of weight because they marry other points. Like when you talk about mother to child transmission, there's a lot that you can talk about. When you talk about unprotected sexual activity, there's a lot that you can talk about, because we are seeing unprotected partner, we are seeing unsuppressed partner, we are seeing somebody who is not adhering to medication, we are seeing a lot of things under one partner. And when we talk about blood, somebody is thinking about transfusion, and we said that blood that is being transfused has been screened, so we may not give that a lot of weight. So we're talking about blood coming in contact with unscreened blood or infected blood and body fluids and all that. I think for me, I'll drop in both transmission and spread. And basically for spread, because transmission, we said there must be an avenue, there must be an infected sample, and the infected sample in this case could be a person, or could be a sample blood, or could be a body fluid, or could be a body tissue, but it has to carry the infection for it to be transmitted to another body. So the matter spread is about lifestyle and so many things, like now sharing of sharps, people who inject drugs and sharing their needles, your lifestyle. I think when I talk about lifestyle, we are in a position to answer that question on our own. But that is what we gave a lot of weight. And just before we talk about prevention, I think there's something.
Yeah, there is something just that I wanted to add quickly, Spen, just about the blood transfusion. Yeah, you said that blood, we don't want to give it a lot of weight, because for one to get another blood, it has to be screened. But again, there are some cases, just little cases, whereby you see somebody is getting that blood that is not screened.
Or you may want to look at the culture practices of sucking blood, I don't know, doing tube sucking. I think those are some other issues that you want to talk about when you talk about blood. Thank you so much for bringing that. And again, when we're talking about blood, somebody is asking, kissing, all that. For me, kissing, we may not talk about it today, but if you have a bleeding gum, remember we're talking about blood. Because for you to get the infection through saliva, then there's a number of liters that you may need to present before an infection happens. So there's a lot that you need to talk about when talking about blood. Keep the questions coming, we'll be in a position to answer them.
Thank you so much, our viewers. I want to believe that you are together with us, and you are hearing what we are saying. Please, if there is anything that you cannot understand, just let us know. Yes, Pem, I think we have already done the overview of HIV.
Then we've not tackled prevention.
Okay, we are going to that, right? It was HIV and AIDS, and we look at the spread and the transmission and all that. So let's talk about the infection prevention. Infection
prevention. Thank you. just taking key of what we saw or what caught another attention is the present methods or the major methods that we have for prevention. And I know there's so many. There's so many that we talked about. There are so many, including changing your lifestyle, changing culture, looking at the culture and all that, including looking at your spiritual life and all that. There's a lot. But there's a few that we talked about.
Exactly.
And one of them was primary methods. And we said primary methods targets who?
They are targeting the negative
The
people
negative
or
partners. So
persons.
every activity that you're going to do as a negative person, in this case HIV negative person, is what we call primary methods.
Exactly.
So this one cuts across so many. There's condom, there's abstinence, there is PEP, there's PrEP and all that. Then there is what we call secondary. Secondary touches on whoever is HIV positive. So each and everything that you're doing to prevent others from getting the infection is what we are calling secondary.
Exactly. The
Then
index person.
The index person.
Exactly.
You're using medical terms. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Index client. Let us take that
client.
direction. The index person, the real person, the person with the infection. All the things that he is doing or she is doing to prevent the infection from occurring is what we are calling the secondary prevention methods. There is something that we also talked about. We gave it its own day, which was PEP and PrEP.
Yes.
And just to get the difference, that PEP is used after exposure within 72 hours, and it is taken for 28 days. And there is need to go and test again after you're done with your PEP.
Exactly.
Then where to get PEP is also important. Don't buy PEP before you get the baseline diagnosis or the baseline test. There is need to test for the HIV first before you start taking your PEP. Then we talked about PrEP. And we said PrEP is for people that are ongoing exposure, and we give a category of people that may want to benefit from PEP. Just to mention, there are pregnant women with positive partners, or in short, we're talking about a discordant couple. We talked about people that inject drugs. We talked about sex workers. We talked about any other group that we talked about. If your lifestyle puts you at risk of getting infection, so just screen your life, and if you know you are at risk of getting the infection, then you deserve to use what? PrEP. And we say it's important to have your PrEP 7 days prior to the first exposure, and you should use PrEP as long as the exposure still exists.
Exactly.
The other bit that we talked about, but we talked about in a small way, and we are promising that next time, I think that is going to form part of our major topics that we are going to talk about in our next episodes, is that you, it's equal to you. So what are we saying? That if you don't have it, then you may not transmit it. When it is undetectable, it cannot be transmitted. So how do you achieve undetectable states? Is by adhering well to medication. And we are also saying this might be under the secondary bit, but the primary guy must support the secondary person to achieve this. Because if you have a partner that is on medication, you must support your partner, number one, to receive or to achieve viral load suppression for that person not to infect you. Yes.
Thank you so much, Spem.
Yes.
Maybe somebody is there and asking you more herself. Can you guys just tell us what is PEP, what is PrEP? Maybe he forgot something like that, Spem.
Then you're going to tell us because somebody has asked
so
you.
PEP, we said it is post-exposure prophylaxis, and
yes.
it is after the exposure. So
and exposure.
Yes.
Exposing yourself to a risk of getting infected. This could be due to condom burst, due
rape,
maybe rape,
physical assault,
accidents, sharing of sharps, all that. Human bite. We'll talk about human bite. We'll talk about human bite next time.
Yeah, but I think human bites, maybe we can categorize it in
physical
assault.
There's a lot of questions because somebody will say that number one, you said saliva may not. The word is may. So human bite, there is saliva there. There is the
Maybe
question, or
blood.
there is the question of bleeding gums. There's the question of bleeding lips. There's the question of so many things that we may don't want to talk about next time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And then PrEP, it was
Exposure
pre-exposure prophylaxis, which was before.
Before an exposure. It is
Exactly.
a prior thing that you do before an exposure happens.
Yeah. Thank you so much, our viewers. I want to believe that until that that state, you are getting it right. And let us just know
Evans
that
Okute
we are
is
together with
following.
us. Thank you, Evans. Thank you. We have another follower. He's called who? Just read it from here.
Michael Ogio. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Brethren, thank you so much, brother. Michael Ogio.
Yeah, you can just tell us if we are at home with you, because you remember we are Heroes Voices Corner.
Yes.
Together we can achieve, and together we can go far.
And
thank you.
Just before we move to diagnosis, which I know we've just talked about it, but before we move to diagnosis, it is important also to remind you that the reason why we are bringing this is to create a health-seeking behavior for the public, because there's a lot of information that is lacking, there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, there's a lot of people that are staying at home with the infection without seeking treatment because of fear of unknown. So there's need to come, there's somebody waiting for you, somebody that is going to talk to you, somebody that is going to give you the right information. And just to do an NB on air, don't start medication on your own. There is need to start ART or ARV medication at the facility level. Straight, we are going to discuss diagnosis, and we define the diagnosis as a process of just finding out a condition with an intention of creating a treatment plan. So just testing carelessly might not be a diagnosis. Knowing your status just like that might not be the right diagnosis. And that's why in most cases somebody will say, do you have the right diagnosis? Do you understand what you're suffering from? And we said that we have antibody tests and the antigen tests, which we are not going to talk about today. But again, last time I remember we showed our viewers the interpretation of the results. But I would want to encourage you that you go and get tested. It is important to know your status. You can also buy the kits, but get the right information. For me, that would cover diagnosis.
Thank you so much, Spam. And I just wanted to bring to our viewers that when we talk about diagnosis, you've already said something there. It is not just going, when we are going for that diagnosis, it is important for you to seek health issues, because it is touching so many things. It is touching emotions, physical, spiritual aspects, all around well-being.
So that is the beauty about HIV diagnosis. What are we saying? That when you come to look, when you come to check on your status, then there is what we call the pre-counseling session,
and
there is the testing bit, and there is the post. So pre will be preparing you for the test, and now the post counseling or the post test counseling will be addressing the results that is there. Now get this, if you test at home and you don't have the right information, if you test in the bush and you don't have the right information, we are seeing an outcome that is not very favorable to life. So that's why we are saying it's important to have the right information, number one. And if you know you are not in a position to interpret the result and accept the result, no matter what it is, whether positive or negative, it is important to seek help to somebody who has been trained to have this thing handled in a good way.
Because at that particular moment, that person who is trained will be tackling about your physical, your emotions, your spiritual well-being, and everything, such that at the end of the day, when the test comes out to be positive, then you shall have known how to handle your situation.
I think that is so well. And there is also avenues for referrals. We also talked about the core conditions. We also talked about the safety in testing. There's a lot of confidentiality. There's a lot of counseling taking place. There's a lot of getting the correct results. There's a lot of things that are taking place during this service. It is important to get this service at a place where you know you'll not be deserved. Don't disservice yourself. Don't run away, don't shy away. It's important to get help.
Exactly.
By the way, seeking help doesn't mean that you're weak. It is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And you remember that we said seeking help reduces the cost and the impact of illness and allows
Yes.
people to thrive and flourish, to contribute a more positive society.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that should be a quote.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we went like that. Today we want to be, that's why we are rushing. We are considerate about timing and all that. After you've known your status, after you have your HIV status,
Yeah.
there is need for number one, to get the right information about your status. Basically, there is need to disclose.
Yeah.
So, and somebody is asking, is it a must that I disclose my status? It is not a must.
Yeah.
It is not a must, yet it is important. So if you answer these questions, then you will know whether you should disclose your status or
Exactly.
not. And these are the questions. Even as you're picking it, yes.
Yeah.
What are the questions that we need to answer
Yeah.
during disclosure process?
Yeah.
There's the question of
When? Yes.
So at what time should I disclose my status?
Yeah.
There is the question of why. Why should I make my status known to
Exactly.
people? What importance does it come with? To who should I tell this story?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I supposed to be talking to about my status? Where am I supposed to be when I'm talking about my status, when I'm disclosing my status? And how am I supposed to do it? We gave so much examples. Are we supposed to do it on phone? Are we supposed to sit down? Are we supposed to come at the facility just to do it? So answer the question how, and you'll realize that it's an easy event. After getting to know the right person, after getting to know how to do it and why to do it, after understanding the process itself, then it will be an easy event for you.
Exactly.
But before you understand all that, it is a difficult thing, and you'll be dying with what we call the burden of secrecy. There are levels that we talked about, or we talked about types. It could be voluntary or involuntary. I don't want to talk about involuntary because in most cases these are accidents that happen. Unastukia tu that your status is out into the public. I don't want to talk about that, but I want to talk about voluntary disclosure.
Yeah.
Where you have the full consent. You've given your consent that your status should be talked about, and it can be assisted by a healthcare provider, or you can be facilitated to go and do it on your own. This one can be self, or it can be assisted.
Exactly.
And then we also talked about some other levels where there's no disclosure completely, or there is partial disclosure, or there is full disclosure. And when you're talking about partial disclosure, because none simply means that no one knows about your status apart from you and whoever tested you and where you seek health services. Partial is where you're given information that can be built on in future. It's an information that is not fully baked.
Yeah.
And in most cases, it applies when you're talking to children, or you're talking to young adults, or you're talking to adolescents or teens.
Yes.
The language that you're going to use there is very friendly to them, and they are in a position to understand it.
Exactly.
For instance, you're talking of germs, and you're talking of germs causing disease or an infection, and again you're talking about taking drugs will build your body immunity. The body immunity, you are talking about the body soldiers. A language that
a child can understand, or an adolescent.
Another key word that must come out during disclosure is it is a process, it is not a one-time event.
Exactly.
Give it time, seek help,
Yes.
ask how it should be done. Get supported if you know you cannot do it on your own. It is not a one-time event. It takes time, and give it time.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Thank you so much, Spam.
Yes.
So it means that when you want to disclose, you have to consider those 5 ways.
Yes.
They are very important.
Very key.
The when, the why, the how, the what.
To who.
To who. Actually,
where.
To who is very important.
To who is very important. And by the, even after getting the right person to disclose to, you must also consider your environment. And that is the where. You must also consider your timing. You must also, when do you want to disclose? Is it immediately after when you want to start a relationship, or in the middle of a relationship?
Yeah.
or when you're giving birth, or when do you want to disclose? It is very important. And these people that we're talking about, to who you are looking at, your partners, your children, your parents, and all that. And more so when it comes to adolescent or children, then to who is the adolescent, and how you're going to do it is now important, and where you should do it. At school, you may not do it in the road. You may take them out. You may want to do something that will calm the environment and make them in a position to be considerate and to relate with the reality of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And still remember, it's a process.
Yeah.
Yes. So after initiating that process, ensure that process, you complete that process in the due course. So don't start and then stop. So start and continue.
Yeah.
For us, we say that we revisit what we call disclosure, and for them that have received full disclosure, we still revisit it annually. So that makes you feel, or that will make you think today, that it is a process that is so important and must be given time.
Yeah.
And don't rush it and don't force it.
Yeah.
Yes.
In that, maybe I would just love to add something very quickly, that when you are doing that, you are preparing yourself to disclose. Yeah, just keep it simple. Yeah, don't complicate yourself.
Yes.
And then avoid isolating yourself, like you don't want to be in a group or something. Just have the gut and relax. Yeah, once all those has been done or has been considered, then you are good to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
We may want to say thank you and say that keep watching us. Thank you so much for supporting us. Like the page, follow the page. There's a Twitter handle which we are going to share at the page. Actually, if you click on our website, that one will take you to our YouTube channel. So all our clips are in our YouTube channel. Kindly go there, watch them. You can give us your summary, you can comment, you can suggest anything, you can ask questions. We'll be in a position to answer them. Next week, we'll be introducing a new topic. God willing, we'll bring in our visitor that we've already contacted, and we'll be talking about adherence.
Yeah.
So start thinking about adherence and the support pillars and all that. From my side, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting us. Today, I just want to appreciate our viewers. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you so much. I don't have much to say. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in and continue to be with us. Together, we can achieve more.
Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Bye.